Hey guys, I just want to say that if you're new to the channel, please do consider subscribing. I'm a small content creator and could really use your support. I live stream 100% of the gameplay for games that I review, and I'm also always trying to keep up with the big named movies that are being released. If you would like to support the channel monetarily, you can do so through PayPal, or even better yet, you can get yourself some merch from my Teespring store. If you want to get better connected, you can do so through the social links in the description below, and please do consider joining the Discord. If you do, you can voice chat with me through my headphones while I live stream, and you won't be recorded on YouTube or Twitch. That's all I've got, guys. I hope that you really enjoy the video. Very rarely, during a person's childhood years, is an icon born that can maintain its celebrity into that person's adulthood, let alone into their older age. Something that I remember when I was growing up is things like SpongeBob. Now I'm 27, and I watched SpongeBob as a kid. I remember Dragon Ball Z, and those things are still popular today. Well, even before my time was an icon who we all know and love still to this day. I'm sure that whoever you are watching this video, there was a point in your childhood life when you said to yourself, "I have the power!" Hello everybody, I'm Mike, and this is Mike's After Action Reviews, and today we're going to be doing a review of Masters of the Universe Revelation. So, Masters of the Universe Revelation is a show that released on Netflix not too long ago, and it was produced by Powerhouse Animation Studio and Mattel Television. It was both written and directed by Kevin Smith, who is very famous for both writing and directing Clerks, both 1 and 2, Chasing Amy, and the movie Dogma, which starred Matt Damon and Ben Affleck. I almost forgot that major Hollywood actor's name. Kevin Smith is pretty famous for being basically a giant super nerd in Hollywood and things like that. And so I'm sure that he was absolutely delighted to be able to take on another franchise and, well, do this with it. So, so basically, breakdown of the plot, non-spoiler. So to avoid spoilers with this plot summary, I've just quote this. So this is exactly quoted from IMDb, which is also the same thing as Netflix, the description on Netflix, and all that stuff. Okay. So this is from IMDb. A radical return to Eternia. Revelation is a direct sequel series to the classic era of Masters of the Universe, which used to be known as He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, featuring fan favorites He-Man, Orko, Cringer, and Man-at-Arms. The story pits our heroic warriors and guardians of Castle Grayskull against Skeletor, Evelyn, Beastman, and the vile legions of Snake Mountain. But after a ferocious final battle forever fractures Eternia, it's up to Teela to solve the mystery of the missing Sword of Power in a race against time to prevent the end of the universe. Her journey will uncover the secrets of Grayskull at last. So, as I said, non-spoiler plot, and I'm gonna kind of talk about kind of how the plot all kind of plays out here in a little bit. Again, no spoilers here. So I was going to do a review where I did like a review and then a spoiler section at the end, but I'm just going to do 2 videos because of time. So no spoilers. So don't really worry about that. And if there is maybe small spoilers or something, I'll let you know before it happens. But so the first thing after basically the plot summary, we're going to talk about acting. So I can say that The acting was just impeccable. They had an all-around awesome voice acting cast. So you have some lesser-known actors, and then also some really heavy hitters here. So we got He-Man is played by Chris Wood, who is known from the Supergirl series and also Vampire Diaries series. You have Mark Hamill, the big one, the master of voice acting almost. He's like a master of voice acting, in my opinion. Known from Star Wars. He is the Joker in the video games, the Arkham video games, the animated series, just everything. He does a bunch of other stuff as well. So he's Skeletor. You have Sarah Michelle Gellar, known from the movie Cruel Intentions, the first one, and Buffy the Vampire Slayer series. She plays Teela. You have Lena Headey, coming off of Game of Thrones and the movie 300, and she is playing Evil Lynn. Tiffany Smith, lesser-known actress. She is known for her made-for-TV movie Harry and Meghan Becoming Royal, and also the television show Vice, and she plays Andra, who is a newer character to the series, as far as, like, she's not a known character from the old series or anything like that. Susan Eisenberg, who voiced Wonder Woman from the Justice League animated series. She plays Sorceress. You have Liam Cunningham from Game of Thrones as well, and also the movie Clash of the Titans. He plays Man-at-Arms. Justin Long from Live Free or Die Hard, and also the Jeepers Creepers movie, which is where I was first introduced to him. And then Griffin Newman from the Tick series and A Rainy Day in New York movie, and he plays Orko. Now, as I said, some lesser-known guys, some heavy hitters, but they all do an amazing job at capturing their characters' voices. I think that people don't really understand, except for like the major people like Robin Williams voicing the Genie, Mark Hamill voicing the Joker. I don't think that people give enough credit to the voice actors in a lot of situations. But this animated series, they had some really good voice actors. I'm very happy with how they performed. So kind of moving on to characters, so there's not a whole lot to say as far as standouts being too bad, but I think that everybody did a great job here. Well, actually, before I move into characters, I will say that Mark Hamill as Skeletor, it's great. He does a great job, but it is different. Like, immediately you're going to notice the difference. While being a person who didn't play, so I wasn't like a He-Man superfan. That was a little bit before my time, but I did see the old animated series that came out in 2002. I just off the top of my head, I think that they were close enough with the voice acting for He-Man that you may not immediately, like, it's not as jarring to hear He-Man or Evelyn or the Sorceress as it is to hear Mark Hamill play Skeletor. Although, like I said, he did an impeccable job, so I still was very happy with that. So moving on to the characters, kind of part of the characters is their designs. Impeccable. I mean, excellent animation style. One of the great things that kind of brought me and made me interested in this series, and I think other people as well, was the animation series, and the trailer looked so good. The animation looked amazing. So you have He-Man. If you don't know, I'm going to give you a little bit of a backstory on all the characters and then kind of describe how they are in the series. So you have He-Man, who is the wielder of the Sword of Power, and he is given magical power, super strength from Grayskull, Castle Grayskull, and they explain a little bit more about it in the show. But basically, He-Man, super powered, amazing endurance, strength, and durability from magical powers. He normally is a skinny little kid, or not like a kid, but a skinny teenager boy named Adam. He's Prince Adam, Prince of Eternia, and when he lifts the sword of Grayskull, a sword of power, and calls upon the Castle Grayskull and says, "I have the power," he becomes He-Man. And basically, He-Man is actually done really great here when you see him, but he is not as present as much as you probably would like. Same thing with Skeletor. So Skeletor is kind of basically just like the bad guy. He's the stereotypical bad guy from like 80s cartoons that we've even carried into today's modern media. Typical bad guy, wants to rule the world, awesome power. He has like a ridiculous amount of power, magical power, and his thing is that he has his face was melted off by Man-at-Arms. And so he became, and then instead of dying, he called upon an ancient evil, and that ancient evil kept him alive and made him Skeletor. So he battles it out with He-Man all the time, and character actually was done really well. They didn't really need to change a whole lot from his old school stuff. Just like in the new Star Wars movie, you don't have to change Darth Vader. He's basically pretty good the way he is, almost perfect. And Skeletor as well is just like that. Great when you see him, but he's not as present as much as you would probably like. There is a great big old opening sequence with them in both He-Man and Skeletor in the first episode, and then aside from that, you don't see a whole lot of them. They kind of take a back seat in this first part. And one thing you need to realize is that this is season 1, part 1. 5 episodes, part 1. I'll kind of get into that in a minute, but so in this first part, He-Man and Skeletor take a back seat. I'm going to skip over these next two characters who are Teela and Andra, and I will come back to them. But Man-at-Arms. So Man-at-Arms is kind of one of the highest rank. I want to say other than the king. it's like King Man-at-Arms. Okay, he's the second in command to the king of the armies of Eternia, and he is like imagine a land, because Eternia is a land of both magic. Might and magic style stuff, like with wizards and ancient stuff, but then also advanced technology. So imagine a person like that who is also who lives in that area and is special forces. That's what he has, all the best gear. He has all kinds of awesome skills. He's rough, tough, hard to bluff, and he is a strategist, and he's quick-witted, and he is a great general. But his character is so he's done really well as far as the way his character is, except for some stuff. There is like a moment where you kind of see him and he has to make a decision. He makes kind of an odd decision about halfway through the show, and it's just a little bit weird, but basically not done too terrible. They didn't really do him wrong as far as who the character is, but he is basically underutilized throughout most of the show. You don't see a whole lot of him. Then you have Roboto, who is a character that is a robot that was built. So in the older series, he was built by Man-at-Arms, and basically what Man-at-Arms did is some kind of like data transfer of his own mind into this robot body. So Roboto was designed to be like Man-at-Arms' son, because he never had a son. And he has Man-at-Arms kind of intelligence, kind of character, personality, things like that. And he has quite a bit of his abilities as far as intellectually so. And so in this, and again, I'm giving you guys a rough overview for people who did not see the old show. And then also anything I'm saying now if you're an old fan of the show, you can kind of compare it to how you remember it. And kind of give yourself a little, kind of think to yourself, is that going to be what I want? Is this the way I want to see the characters go? But I can definitely tell you, he is given a decent arc. He's given a decent arc. He is a side character, so he's not like up front doing a bunch of stuff or having a lot of dialogue. But there's always an arc with characters like this who are like robotic and designed to be human-like, where they say to themselves, they have self-actualization. What am I? Who am I? Am I human? Am I not human? What does it even mean to be human? How do I handle emotions? That kind of stuff. They kind of do that with him here, and they do a pretty good job for a side character to have an arc. It was a good thing. Then we have so the next two characters, I would say, are the absolute best characters as far as actual writing of their arcs, of where they start in the beginning and where they end up at the end of the 5 episodes. So we have Evelyn. She is Skeletor's right-hand lady. She is a very powerful mage. She's very old, and her magic keeps her young. So her magic keeps her young, and because of the events that kind of take place and set the kind of the backdrop and the set up the plot for the entirety of the show, as it said, how exactly did it go? It says, after a ferocious final battle that forever fractures Eternia. That fracturing of Eternia has caused some problems with the magic of the land, and she begins to age, but she is able to kind of midway through, well, not like midway, I would say, after the first few episodes, she's able to kind of maintain her youth again. She kind of regains her youth in order to do some things in the show, and you'll have to watch for that. But I will say that you see her take a more front seat position than she has in the past, as far as being Skeletor's kind of right hand man, and you kind of see her power. That they talk about in the show, how she became, how she is, where her younger life, her history, and they give her a decent arc. Actually, she becomes a more sympathetic character to you. She's not just evil, Lynn. She has a softer side, and she has things that are a little bit of redeeming qualities. I wouldn't say that they make her. I wouldn't say that they make her somebody that you think that you root for or anything, but they do make her someone that you are able to understand a little bit more than the old just evil Lynn. Okay, so she is, as I said, the first character that I think gets the best development and the best arc and all of that, and then Orko, the second character that gets some ridiculously awesome development. So, Orko is if you've ever heard of or played League of Legends, there's a character called Vigar, and he's like a little imp character. You don't actually ever see his face because it's covered in darkness, and he has a hat, and a wizard hat, and he talks high-pitching, I'm Vigar, I'm evil. Okay, so Orko is like a good version of that, except Orko doesn't have to walk, he can float. He's like a fairy. And they're all normally fairies are all very magically powerful and all this stuff. Orko has magic power, but usually he's not very inept with it. He's very inept with it. He is not very adept. In this show, so just so you understand, in the older shows when you would see him, he would say, like, let's say that there would be a fire, like a small fire would start. You'd see Orko come up and he'd go, oh, I'm going to use my magic. And he'd use magic, and instead of like putting out the fire, or maybe he's going to shoot water at the fire to douse it, he'd go like this, and he'd go to shoot water magically, and instead of shooting water, he'd shoot gasoline, and the fire would get bigger. So he was that kind of character, kind of a comedy relief style character normally. In this show, he kind of does have a little bit of the comic relief in the beginning, but as the show goes on, he actually, like, when it comes down to the wire, he gets a little bit of a handle on that and is able to help his friends. And again, this is not spoiling anything, okay? But they just give him an arc in his progression of his character, which I actually really liked. I thought that was pretty good. Everything that I've mentioned so far, I think, was pretty good. Except for He-Man and Skeletor not getting enough screen time and kind of be putting in the back burner. I was like, eh. Okay, so then Sorceress. So the Sorceress is the lady who is she's like a good version of Evelyn, but much more powerful. She is able, she's like Galadriel from Lord of the Rings, if you're, kind of familiar with that. She's like ridiculously powerful, and she's the guardian of Grayskull and guardian of the magical source that is held within Grayskull that powers the magics of Eternia and the universe. Traditionally in the show, she's kind of one of those characters that is like very wise, very smart, kind of knows what's going on. She does not go out and do things. She has never done that. As far as, traditionally, her traditional role is she's smart, she knows what's going on. He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, the other characters, would go to her and say, this is kind of a problem. what do we do? She would give them guidance. They would go do the thing, or she would call upon He-Man, and he would come, and she would say, "Hey, this is the problem. You got to go do this thing." And then he and his companions would go do it. So that's kind of like her role traditionally, and here we gotta get the same thing. Not a whole lot of changes, but that was okay because that's her traditional role. She kind of has a purpose, and she fulfills that purpose, and she does a fine job with it. Not a whole lot of screen time or dialogue, but that is pretty standard, and they actually do her right. I felt fine about her character. Never one of the major movers, but always a very... I would say that she is kind of in the center of everything, but she's not one of the people that's doing all of the action. Okay, that's how I would describe her, and that traditionally, and that's how she is here. So that was fine. Now I'm going to get to two characters. First, I'm going to talk about Andra. That is a new character. Now this is one of those newer series, like they're rebooting a series, and as with anything, they're going to start to introduce new characters. My feeling with this is that they're introducing these new characters, and they're trying... So there's one new character in particular. I think... one new character in particular they've introduced, and they're trying to kind of bring in some new ideas, some new things. And actually, to tell you the truth, I was a little bit disappointed. So Andra was her name. I mean, when I say disappointed, I mean I wasn't expecting much, but it's just not a whole lot. Andra was just there. She's described as being smart, but other than that, her character isn't really explored too well. She says, like, oh, I want to be a hero, and I want to do this thing, but not a whole lot with her actually happens. Maybe that's something that they're going to develop later on in the series as Part 2 comes out. So it's kind of like what I've said in the past about these new MCU series that have come out. Like you make a series about a character, for instance, Loki or Falcon and Winter Soldier. The idea is when you introduce these newer, these lesser-known characters and give them their own kind of spotlight, that you actually give them the spotlight and develop them and talk about them and have them do something. I think that the MCU hasn't been doing the best job of showing us the best stuff of these characters they're making shows about. I think that here, this show didn't really highlight Andra very well, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. Her character isn't shown to be bad or anything. Her character just isn't shown that much. But there is some stuff about her. Now, here is the character that I think has gotten the worst arc, and if you kind of have paid attention to the promotional material and stuff of the show, I think you're going to know who I'm talking about. Teela. So Teela is the adoptive daughter, traditionally, in the past, okay? Character background here. Teela is the adopted daughter of Man-at-Arms. And she basically... Slight spoiler, but not really. This is not a spoiler. This is nothing... If you've never watched the show before, you're not going to... This is not spoiling anything. And if you're an old fan of the show, I don't think this is going to bother you that much to know. So just slight spoiler. It's actually no big deal, okay? Teela finds out that Prince Adam is He-Man, because that is something that is not known, or He-Man is Prince Adam. That's something that's not known. Basically, He-Man is like a superhero for Eternia, and Prince Adam is his secret identity, and nobody knows that He-Man is Prince Adam or who He-Man actually is. But Teela finds out, and a couple other characters know, had already known this, and Prince Adam's family, the king, didn't know that He-Man was Prince Adam, but Teela finds this out, and immediately it caused, this happens right in the beginning of the series, immediately it causes a 180-degree character flip of this character. This is what I was saying. She's the adopted daughter of Man-at-Arms, and she is the, second in command of Man-at-Arms, so it's King, Man-at-Arms, Teela, okay? King, Man-at-Arms, Teela. So she's this ridiculously important and powerful, lived her whole life for duty and all of these things. She finds out that Prince Adam is He-Man, and the fact that Prince Adam... This would be like if I was a superhero and you guys didn't know it, and then I told you, would you really be... It's a secret identity. It's designed to protect you. That there's a purpose behind why it would... I just don't get it. Secret identities are important, especially in a world where a man who has ridiculous magical power and a skeleton face is trying to murder you constantly. If he found out who your family was, guess what he would try to do to them? Exactly. Okay. So anyway, as soon as she finds out, there's a 180-degree character flip. And this is the defining trait that actually drives the entire arc for her character. And it actually kind of sucks because basically it turns her into someone who is whiny. I mean, she literally whines all the time. You didn't tell me your secret. You didn't tell me your secret. She's angry. And she is rude to people who actually didn't do her any wrong. There's some nonsensical stuff that happens right in the beginning. And the whole time my wife watched the show with me, and she has no idea about any of these characters or anything. She saw this happen and saw the reveal of the secret to Tila, and then Tila gets angry at a bunch of people, and my wife was like, but those people didn't even know either, so that didn't even make any sense. Why is Tila angry? And she basically abandons her post, and abandons her position in life, and kind of just runs off and exiles herself because she's basically upset about a person who is her friend not telling her a small, it's a pretty big secret, but a secret that he kept for a reason, a pretty good reason too. So I don't know, that really upset me. And Tila is kind of the front and center main character, and you can tell just from the description of the show. And it sucks. It sucks because it's a character that we've all liked, no problem, and they turn her into, like I said, a whiny, rude, mean, angry, just jerk. I mean, she's just a jerk some of the time. And the dialogue with her and talking to other characters, like I said, the voice acting was all really good and stuff, but the dialogue sometimes would get dumb. Where she's talking to people who she's known all her life and her friends and all this stuff. It doesn't make much sense some of the time, and it's kind of irritating. Okay, so those are the characters. So if you're a big fan of the show, kind of take all that thing into consideration when considering watching this. If you're new to the show, just think about those types of things. So here we're going to move on to miscellaneous. This is stuff not covered before. Not covered in what I've said already. So basically, this show, actually, I'm sorry to tell you, it's completely different from what you are probably expecting. I'm showing up here, there should be some videos showing over that way, up in the corner there, and you're going to look at it and see things. You're going to go, oh man, you're going to have an idea of the show. And the biggest example I can give of you is this show is very light on action. There's a lot of meandering and talking. It's about 70% dialogue, so it's very light on action. You basically have 5 25-minute episodes, and it has a weird, strange pacing thing. So normally in the old show, basically in Saturday morning action style cartoons, you have a beginning to an episode, some type of conflict. The enemy maybe defeats the bad guy or defeats the good guys, or in some way does some big bad thing, and the good guys either suffer a great loss or somebody gets hurt, and then they have to avenge that person or recover from their loss. Excuse me, my screen is going to screensaver mode. But And then they defeat him, and they do that usually within about a half hour episode. Here you have 20, and it's fine because they're kind of making an elongated series, like each episode leads into the other, whereas most cartoons and stuff like that, they're not directly connected, but sometimes there are connections between each episode. Here, they have a cohesive storyline, but the problem is each episode, I hate this, I've been saying this about every single series I've talked about recently. They could have made this a movie, and they could have gotten rid of some of the episodes because it was just filler. You have 25-minute episodes. It's both too fast and too slow at the same time. It's a fast-paced, but not a whole lot of things that are ridiculously important are happening. Like how you can watch a 25-minute episode where you'll have a character go from point A all the way across the world to point B, get a thing, take it back to point A, talk to some characters, and then decide to move on with move on with more of the quest. And that whole time, it's 25 minutes, and you feel like nothing happened. Why? Because there was no action. It's so light on dialogue, most of what you're going to be doing is talking. There's not going to be a whole lot to grab you and bring you in and kind of hook you. There is no true main protagonist. As I said, Skeletor takes kind of a back seat. They do some weird stuff that actually, to tell you the truth, if they had done it right, I think it would have done pretty well. But as far as like who the good guy, bad guy, and all that stuff goes, but there's no true threat, like thing. Like it's like this would have been, I think, one of those episodes where in the structure, like I told you before, where it's like introduction of the good guy and the bad guy. They do some kind of altercation. Maybe good guy is kind of defeated or has to do something to, figure out a plan to defeat the bad guy, and then defeats the bad guy. In those types of series, sometimes they would do a thing where the good guy would not defeat the bad guy in the end, and it would say to be continued. Some like this whole show, like the whole show, probably could have been a half-hour episode where they say to be continued, and then the next part 2 of season 1, which I don't understand that. I don't understand that why they released it as part 1 of part 2. But anyway, it just feels like they could have made like a half-hour, maybe a 45-minute, maybe something a little longer. They would have had to make it a little longer. But I'm just saying, like, they could have trimmed so much of this, and then part 2 would be the rest of the show, where after it does the to be continued, you have the hero go and in the second episode beats the guy, if that makes sense to you. Just like nothing really happens here. One of the things that I've talked about in like movies and stuff is I'll kind of just sit down and I'll kind of meditate or whatever, think about what exactly happened in a movie or a TV show or something, and I'll kind of plot out those points. And usually you have like a hook. You have, the thing that kind of hooks you and goes, that's interesting. And they do actually have that in the first episode, although it's done weird. I'll talk about it in spoilers. Some of this, I'm trying to talk kind of in code so you don't exactly get what's going on because of spoilers. But you have like a hook, and then you have like kind of a plan, a conflict, a failure, a reevaluation of the plan, and then some type, like a plan, reevaluation, reassessing, a new plan, and then the final epic battle, okay? In this, you basically have the hook, which it's not a proper hook, but okay, you have a hook, you have a plan, and then they do the plan, and that's it. And I'm like, I just felt like there just wasn't enough here. They probably what they should have done is made these episodes an hour long and then tried to make more substance to them by putting in some more battles, some more and an enemy. They needed an enemy. They really didn't have like a true conflict with another evil character or anything like that in this show, which I was sorely disappointed in. And then they didn't do some nonsensical decisions with some characters. He-Man and Teela in particular. As I said, Teela does this 180 flip. Her character becomes completely different. I mean, like her character's character. The character of her as a person becomes completely different, and that kind of sucked. He-Man, they did a couple things where I was like, I don't know. You'd have to, I don't know. So I'm going to go into my final statement here, and I just want like going through my review score, and I kind of had, I was in conflict with myself, but I asked my wife, and I said, what do you kind of think of this? What do you kind of think of this? And she just bluntly gave it to me honestly, because, I am a person who does like to maybe give a better score when it's things that I like superheroes and might and magic and stuff like that. And she just said, no, like, look, this is, And I said, basically, I did agree, and she, so thank you, sweetheart, if you're watching this. She probably won't. No. But I'm going to give this, just come out right up front and just say, I rate this as 2 thumbs down bad. And I'm going to tell you why. So there is a controversy around this. And I'm going to touch on that in the spoiler section. I normally don't talk about the controversy, but this is like an integral part of what made the show what it is, this controversy, and I'll talk about it in the spoilers. The rest of this, my actual review score for this is completely based on the actual merits of the show, not that controversy. But what I will say about the controversy is that this show is not what was advertised. This show is literally the definition of a bait and switch, with episode 1 being the bait. Everything that you see in the trailers for this show, I'm gonna place, like, if I'm putting trailers up here later. Okay, so they've been playing the whole time. Any action that you see, all episode 1, most of it. I would say like almost 99%. Like literally there might be like one thing that happens later on in the series other than episode 1 that is like the action that you want where you really go like, yeah, get him. Doesn't happen. 70% dialogue. 70% dialogue. He-Man and Skeletor are completely sidelined for a huge majority of the show, which sucks. This is, I went to somebody who I'm pretty sure has never, like I talked to him and I said like that they were never a huge fan of the He-Man show or anything, He-Man stuff, but they knew who He-Man was. And I said to him, you ever heard of Masters of the Universe? And they said, yeah, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. Yeah, I mean, I've heard of it, you know. They're not like dead or anything. I mean, they know about pop culture. And I said, do you know that He-Man, he's like primarily not really the guy in the show, that they kind of take him out of the show for most of the show and he's sidelined off doing some other stuff. And they said, well, how the heck are you going to have a He-Man show without He-Man? Like, come on now. Exactly. It's so disappointing to see. Like, you see the trailers, you see the advertising material, you see He-Man, he's doing his He-Man stuff. There's no big battles in this show except for in the first episode. Underutilization of key characters other than He-Man. While He-Man is the biggest one, that is the major disappointment, and Skeletor. Like, even if you had He-Man off to the sideline, come on, bring Skeletor in. He's supposed to be the big bad. But underutilization of other characters, such as Man-at-Arms and Cringer and stuff like that. I just Cringer is He-Man's mount. He rides a big green tiger with yellow stripes. But underutilization of them, you don't see them do anything. Just nothing happens. This is kind of what I felt like with Loki. Like, not a whole lot actually happens. There are not a lot of plot points that get you to the end of the show. They focus on things that we do not care about. And what I mean by that is just simply like, you show up to see it, especially animated stuff. You want to see big battles. You want to see things that they can't do in live action because of, having actors and stunt doubles and props and CGI and all this. They can't do all the big battles and stuff like they can in animated shows. I wanted to see animated action. I wanted to see big battles. That's why Gundam Wing hasn't had a live action movie, because Gundam Wing would be so hard to do. But man, you see giant robots fighting each other in that show all the time. I wanted to see big muscle-bound freaks killing each other, or fighting each other, or magic, mages shooting fireballs, and it's just not here. They focus mostly on dialogue and drama, and those were things that were in the original shows. But those shows, they were in the shows. The shows had them, but they were about the action and about the heroics of both the men and the women. So I don't even want to get into this stuff about man, woman, whatever. But it was all there, and so I'm very disappointed in that. So basically the same, and I want to say, think about this, if you are a comic book fan, the same thing that is destroying American comics right now destroyed this series. It used to be that the X-Men, like, you would open up an issue of the X-Men and normally the first page would be a battle. Cartoons too. Normally you start off with, I'm the Wolverine, fighting people. And it would be a battle, and then there would be like some kind of, hey, that battle that happened, what was up with that? Who we got to get? Whatever. And then they would go and fight the real bad guy, and finish everybody off, or whatever conflicts, Nowadays, they are releasing comic books where the entire book is the X-Men sitting down at a dinner party, or the Avengers going shopping or something. I don't want that, man. And maybe some people do. Not enough, though. That's why American comic books are failing. You can look it up. The top 20 comic books right now being sold in America are all from Japan. And American comics, just because, and it's My Hero Academia, where those are just packed with action. My final statement about this is just that I don't know who this is for. I don't think that old He-Man fans are going to like the direction that they're taking characters like He-Man and like Teela. It was so disappointing. I don't think that anyone expecting to see big animated battles, which is a staple of this very shows, like the classic versions of this shows, and many current anime series, the staple is big animated battles. People who want that, there aren't any except in the first episode. And I don't think that new audiences are going to sit through 2 hours, because if you think about it, basically 25 minutes times 5 episodes, you're not going to want to sit through 2 hours of characters that you have no history with going on a boring adventure where they have little action to hold your interest, and they're mostly just talking about stuff. I don't see it. I don't understand why they did this. I think that they had a great opportunity. They had a great opportunity. They had a good cast. They had awesome animation and all of the resources in the world to create an awesome show. I don't know why they did this, and they did it this way. I don't know why. Effectively, they have released season 1, and whatever comes next is basically going to, in everyone's mind, is going to be season 2. What they're telling you is that, it's part 1, 5 episodes, part 1 of season 1, and then the next 5 episodes are part 2 of season 1, so then you're going to have season 1 is going to be 10 episodes. But actually, effectively, what they've done is had season 1 be 5 episodes, because of the way they've released it. I don't know why they did that. I think that they made some poor decisions that have actually made... I mean, the biggest problem with the show is just that it's boring. It's boring. And they make some dumb decisions with characters, and you don't even want to see the characters because they're... Like, Teela's a jerk, and she's basically the main character, and what I showed up for just wasn't there. It just wasn't there. And, I mean, it may be... I don't know. I can't even see this being above average because, below average, just because nothing happens, especially for the genre that it's set in, and the fact that it was advertised as being like, look at the promotional material. It was advertised as being this great big battle between good and evil, and the battle takes place in the first episode, and then the rest of it is nothing. So that's what I've got. Watch for the spoiler review. Watch my spoiler review. I hope that you guys enjoyed this. God bless you all. Thank you very much, and have a good night.